Anybody else? I'll not.
Do you have anything to say first? They usually cut you
No.
off, so anyway.
Yeah, they'll come out. Let's go ahead.
Go, Mike.
Ron, you guys obviously signed Brian Rust over the weekend. Other than simply locking down a good player for long term, what more can we read into that in terms of like what that says about the direction you guys are headed, or the identity of the team you're trying to build?
Yeah, we feel like, I guess when we go back to the playoffs, we felt like we were certainly in that series. There were some circumstances there that dictated that we didn't come out in the winning end of it, unfortunately, but we felt like we were in it, and we did feel like we had a good enough team where we could have gone on a run. Obviously, in the end, you got to get it done. So our plan is to continue on trying to win the Stanley Cup. FSG group is totally on board, and management team and coaches are on board. So signing Rusty, obviously he's a very good player. He's an important piece to our team. Obviously plays a lot with Sid or Gino. He can move up and down your line if he can kill penalties, playing the power play. So that was an important signing for us for sure. We have a certain amount of cap space left, and we felt very comfortable with where he came in. Getting back to his deal, I think it's a fair deal. We obviously stretched it out on term, and that helped us a little bit with the AAV. So it was a number that we could both live with, and we're happy with it, and happy to have Brian for the next 6 years.
Les?
Ron, speaking of the amount of cap space left, throughout the season you said re-signing Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin was a high priority. With what's left, just how realistic is that, and has there been any progress in anything?
Well, I don't negotiate through the media, you guys know that, but we have had discussions very recently, and we'll continue to have those discussions. We would like to sign both players. I think if you look at them individually, they've both been here 16 years. I mean, Gino's obviously been a great player, one of the greatest, certainly one of the best players in the history of the game, and we'd like to keep him as a Pittsburgh Penguin for the rest of his career. In a perfect world, Gino retires a Penguin, and I think Tanger's the same. He's been here the same amount of time. These two they're generational players. They don't come along very often, and we'd like to keep them here through the end of their careers. Obviously, we have some issues and areas that we have to work through in terms of the salary cap. Everything's got to match up, and it's a puzzle right now, and I wish we had more pieces in place to make it a little more clear, but it's hard to even venture to guess where we'll end up. We've got some pieces. We've got numerous outlines of teams that we would like to bring in, and obviously the numbers matter, so we'll continue to work with both guys and hopefully come to agreements with them at some point. I have no timeline.
Davey?
Thanks for doing this, Ron.
You're welcome.
Which prospects, if any, in Wilkes-Barre do you see as viable candidates to start next season in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, there's a few of them. I mean, you guys saw Puustinen for one game. He's a guy that certainly comes to mind. Bjorkqvist, Hollander, Poulin, certainly probably the last 55 games or so took his game to another level. P.O. Joseph, Bjorkqvist. So we've got a number of guys down there, and it's always comforting if you leave a couple holes where you have a number of options versus one, and you're counting on this one kid, and then if he's not ready, it's like, okay, where do we go now? You can always bring in trials and things like that, but it's comforting to us that we have a few kids that are kind of on the verge of coming up and being ready to play at this level. It's not forcing them into this level because you might as well leave them down there. So we feel comfortable that certainly a couple of them out of that group could start the season in Pittsburgh.
Seth?
Ron, this is the first off-season with Fenway Sports Group in place. There's already been one change with David Morehouse stepping away. Have you had any discussions as far as your status for the club or any potential changes within hockey operations, whether it's drafting, developing, even the coaching staff, anything like that?
We've had real good communication with the Fenway group. They're on board with kind of the plan. We're moving forward here, trying to be as good as we can be and be a contender. So everything's good. They're totally committed to winning, as are we as a management group and a coaching staff. So we're just going to move along with the summer. We've got some things that we're looking at in terms of adding to staff and stuff, so we're moving along, and as I said, the communication with the Fenway group is good.
Matt?
Ron, did you see enough from Tristan Jarry this year to feel comfortable with him going forward as your number one? And do you feel you need to make changes behind him on the depth chart at the number 2 or number 3 spot?
Yeah, those are discussions that we're having in a lot of areas on the team right now with the pro meetings coming up, so obviously we'll get some input from our pros, and with the management staff, but those are discussions, like I said, every position, but with the salary cap situation, it's a moving target, so in terms of, can we add a little more at this position, a little less at this position, is there somebody that we can move to bring on more space, like it's like I said, we got a puzzle right now, where we've got some pieces in place, but not a lot, so a lot of it's not clear right now as we move along and secure some pieces here, hopefully. Rusty's the first one, so that's what gives us a little more clarity, but it's tough when you're kind of go from the top and then move your way down, so we'll see where, guys like Tanger and Gino end up, and then we'll figure the rest out from there.
Jeff on the left?
Ron, you mentioned
There's a lot of hypothetical there, I'm not trying to evade your question, but there's just a lot of hypothetical in terms of, cap space and what we can add at the different positions.
Ron, this probably feeds into when you're talking about a puzzle, but what is your philosophy on guys entering a final year of a contract? Is it something where you start looking, or because of all, especially this year with all the RFAs and UFAs, that's just not attainable?
I think every case is different, certain guys, if they have a year left, you try to work on them and get them done, and other guys, you say, well, let's just see what this year brings, and then we'll go from there, so it's a hard question to answer just in a vacuum.
Will?
Ron, Brian's 30, but Gino and Letang they're in their mid-30s. They're towards the end of their career. I mean, how concerned are you about term-wise in terms of what you guys would be, flexibility in terms of what you guys would be able to offer? Do you have any sense that they might have a different idea of how much long they might be willing to play versus how long you might be willing to pay them to play?
Yeah, those are the types of things, obviously, those talks are internal. What I can tell you is, they're both great athletes, they've both been here a long time, they've both performing at a high level right now, and we'd certainly like to have them in the mix in September.
Mike?
Ron, as you look back at the way the season and postseason unfolded, is there anything when you look at the team that you feel like it was maybe missing, or something you feel like you wish you had more of in terms of the identity of the team?
A little more cap space would be great. You know what, when I look at our team this year, when you think about from the start of the year to the end of the year, like, we start the season without Gino and without Sid, and we keep our heads above water, like, I think about a resilient team. And obviously, when you lose out in the first round of playoffs, you don't feel real good about your season, but if you really step back and you look at where we were, the adversity that we faced, I know every team faced adversity, but when you listen to Gino and Sid at the start of the year, you get off to a good start, and the guys stepping up here and there, I just felt like we were just a really resilient group, a really hard-working group, and sometimes when you have superstars, it's hard to be a really close-knit team, and this team is a really close-knit team with obviously 3 guys that are very high-profile, so again, if we win the first round, we're playing right now, we're all happy, and obviously we were close. There were some circumstances, as I said, that dictated that we didn't, but I didn't feel like there was a lack of talent or depth or ability. It was more, a couple things that happened that went against us.
Mike again.
I just want to ask you more specifically about a couple guys, the RFAs, Dan Heinen and Kasperi Kapanen. Can you tell us anything about your plans maybe to extend those guys qualifying offers?
Yeah, that's more, once we work our way down and get a little clearer vision of our cap space and stuff, we'll work through issues like that, but at this point, I can't really answer that because it's hypothetical. We like both players. Danton came in, did a real good job for us on I don't know if you call it a bargain contract, but on a contract that was fair. It was kind of a prove-it contract for him, and he did a real good job for us. So we'll evaluate that one as we move forward here, and I think Cappy, I think a year ago scored 30 points in 40 games, like he kind of proved the type of numbers that he can put up, and this year he had a similar numbers in twice the game, so there's more there for Cappy. He had an off year, and we certainly expect more from him next year.
Three more, Dan?
Ron, worst case scenario, and you're not able to lock up Evgeny Malkin, do you feel like you have a number 2 center on your roster already, or is that something you have to look at in free agency?
Well, we first and foremost, we would like to sign Gino, so we'll work through that, and then if at some point we realize that can't happen, then we'll certainly look elsewhere, but right now our focus is on Gino.
David?
Ron, one of the circumstances during the first round was an elbow to the head of your captain. Were you surprised there was nothing called at the time, in real time, or any action subsequently taken by the league over that?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's a tough one. I think, you remember the first shift, the first game? Jake there, I felt like that was pretty bad. I felt like there was some intent there. Sid's, I think there was intent, and I think it's arguable whether there was intent to injure or it was just intent to let him get to the net, but it's certainly unfortunate. I think that the headshots, I believe, we as a league have to continue to talk and evaluate where we are with headshots, because it's an issue that's prevalent in sports, and we need to continue to move forward and try to better our system where we try to get them out as much as possible, hopefully at some point completely out.
Last one, Matt?
On the left side of your defense, you mentioned P.O. earlier. You have 3 established guys. You also, Mark Friedman came in and did some good things this year. I mean, do you anticipate maybe that being an area where you might need to move a player out to create an opportunity for someone like P.O. to step in?
Well, it's certainly a possibility, but again, you got 2 to tango, and you kind of look at your strengths and okay, where can we shave a little bit off the cap to add in another place? So we'll have all kinds of discussions, with regards to those types of issues that possibly we can create some more space within our cap. The other thing I don't think you guys have known, Rusty had a little procedure a few days ago on his knee. It was just a cleanup, just a little bit of information than anything. The other thing I forgot to mention with Rusty was we actually didn't sign the deal for Rusty. It was more for his son Hunter, who was turning 1 year old. We signed him, so we figured, here Hunter, happy birthday.
Pretty good birthday.
And Russ, that's not gonna affect the season, he'll be back in time for training.
Yeah,
or
no,
anything like that.
it's short term.
Right.
Thanks, Rob.